In a world where power can buy anything except a father's heart, one boy was cast aside the moment he opened his eyes. But destiny doesn't stay silent forever. Today, you're about to hear the shocking story of the billionaire who denied his own blood, and the son who grew up to confront the truth he was never meant to know. This isn't just a tale of wealth and betrayal. It's a story about identity, justice, and the unbreakable bond that even a fortune can't erase. Imagine being born into the richest family in California, only to be rejected by your own father because of the color of your skin. This is the heartbreaking journey of Michael Lancaster, the son the world never knew existed then, the billionaire who wanted to erase him. He had money, power, and a perfect public image, but behind the mansion walls, there was a secret one that could destroy everything. Today's story exposes the billionaire who denied his own son, and the shocking twist that changed their lives forever. The Lancaster dynasty was a name synonymous with old money and new technology. From their sprawling estate in Beverly Hills, patriarch Richard Lancaster controlled a global empire. To the world, he was a philanthropist, a visionary, a family man with a beautiful wife, Eleanor, and a picture-perfect son, Thomas. But Richard had a secret, buried deep in the past, a secret named Michael. Years before his public marriage, Richard had a passionate affair with a woman named Isabella, a brilliant artist with a fiery spirit. When Isabella became pregnant, Richard was thrilled, envisioning another heir to his legacy. But when Michael was born, Richard's joy turned to ice. The baby's skin was darker than his, a clear sign of Isabella's mixed heritage, a fact she had never hidden, but one Richard had conveniently ignored. In his cold, calculated world, a son who didn't look like him was not a Lancaster. He was a complication. Richard offered Isabella a fortune to disappear, to raise Michael far away and never speak of his true parentage. Heartbroken but fiercely protective, Isabella took the money not for herself, but to give her son the best life she could. Free from the judgment of the man who should have loved him most, they moved to a quiet town in Northern California, where Michael grew up knowing only the love of his mother. It was bright, driven, and had a natural talent for business, a trait he unknowingly shared with his father. Isabella never poisoned Michael against the father he never knew. Instead, she taught him strength, integrity, and the value of being true to oneself. As Michael grew into a young man, his curiosity about his father became a quiet ache. He saw the Lancaster name on buildings, in news headlines, and on the glossy pages of magazines. He saw the face of the man who looked so much like him, yet was a complete stranger. When Michael was in his 20s, his mother fell gravely ill. On her deathbed, Isabella finally told him the whole truth, giving him a small box containing letters, photos, and a DNA test she had secretly done years ago. It was undeniable proof. With his mother gone, a fire ignited within Michael. It wasn't about the money. It was about justice. It was about reclaiming the identity that had been stolen from him. Michael, now a sharp and successful entrepreneur in his own right, devised a plan. He wouldn't just show up at the Lancaster mansion demanding a handout. He would meet his father on his own terms in the boardroom. Using his business acumen, Michael strategically acquired a small but pivotal tech company that Richard Lancaster's corporation was looking to absorb. This move put him on a direct collision course with his father. The day of the merger meeting arrived. Richard Lancaster entered the boardroom, exuding an aura of untouchable power. He glanced dismissively at the young man sitting across the table, the CEO of the company he was about to swallow whole. As Michael began to speak, his voice steady and confident, Richard felt an unsettling sense of familiarity. The young man's arguments were brilliant, his strategies flawless. He was, to Richard's shock, a formidable opponent. Finally, after cornering Richard with a move he couldn't counter, Michael paused. The room was silent. He looked directly at Richard and said, "There's one more asset you're not aware of." He slid a file across the polished mahogany table. It wasn't a business acumen, it was the DNA test. It was a photo of a young Richard with Isabella. It was everything. The color drained from Richard's face. The perfect facade he had maintained for decades shattered in an instant. His public son, Thomas, who was also in the room, stared in disbelief. The secret was out. But the story doesn't end there. The confrontation set off a chain reaction that no one could have predicted. The media frenzy was immediate. The Lancaster empire was rocked to its core. But what happened next was the most shocking part of all. Did Michael destroy his father, or did he find something more? What did his half-brother, Thomas, do when faced with this new reality? The fallout from that boardroom meeting was more than just a scandal. It was a reckoning. Michael didn't just expose a secret. He forced a family to confront its own soul. The path to redemption is never easy, and for the Lancasters it was just beginning. This story serves as a powerful reminder that our true worth isn't defined by our name, our wealth, or what others think of us. It's defined by our character and the courage to stand up for our truth. Michael Lancaster fought for his identity and, in doing so, changed the destiny of a dynasty. What did you think of Michael's incredible journey? Let me know in the comments below. And if you were moved by this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more unforgettable real-life dramas. Thanks for watching. and we'll see you in the next video. You know that feeling when you're standing at the edge of your own life, suitcase beside you, ready to walk away from everything you've built? That was exactly where I stood 3 months ago, tears streaming down my face, convinced my billionaire husband only saw me as some charity project he was obligated to maintain. But then I heard him say my name through that closed door, and what followed changed everything. If you've ever felt out of place, like you're fighting battles nobody else notices, then this story is meant for you. Hit that subscribe button and get comfortable, because what I'm about to reveal will make you question everything you think you understand about love, family, and the prices we pay just to belong. My name doesn't matter, but my story does. I grew up in a neighborhood where gunfire was the morning alarm clock and dreams were luxuries my family could never cash in on. My mama scrubbed houses for women who couldn't bother to look her in the eye, and I promised myself I'd never bow to anyone. Funny how life loves to test the promises you make to yourself. I was 24 then, working at the Rosewood Country Club, balancing trays and swallowing my pride while the wealthy treated me like part of the furniture. That's where I first crossed paths with the Montgomery family. Old money so ancient it probably remembered when the dirt beneath our feet was new. They sat at table 7 every week, and Lord knows they were the worst. Mrs. Montgomery snapped her fingers at service like we were pets. Her daughter Adelaide knocked things over on purpose just to watch us scramble in her son. Well, I hadn't met him yet. The night everything shifted began like every other disaster in my life. I was carrying a tray of vintage wine. One bottle cost more than my rent when Adelaide deliberately stuck out her foot. I watched it all happen in slow motion, the tray tilting, glasses sliding, and then a loud crash. Red wine everywhere, including all over the man who had just walked in. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," I gasped, scrambling for napkins, my hands trembling because I knew I was about to lose my job, the job that was keeping my little sister in college. "Adelaide," I began. "That was intentional," the man said, and his voice sounded different from the rest of them. Tired, disappointed. I apologized to her now. I looked up, really looked at him. He was devastatingly handsome, in that way that makes you forget your own name. But it was his eyes that caught me. They looked just as burnt out as I felt. "She's just the help," Adelaide laughed. "Besides, it was an accident." "Then accidentally apologize," he replied, still focused on me. "Or I'll accidentally forget to sign those documents. Dad left for you." That was my first real introduction to him, the black sheep billionaire who actually had a conscience. He insisted on getting me a new uniform, tipped enough to cover 3 months of my rent, and asked for my name like it mattered. After that, we started meeting secretly, not because he was ashamed, though God, I would learn later just how wrong I was about that, but because he said his family was poison, and he wanted to keep me safe for as long as he could. For 6 months, I lived a double life. Days serving people who looked straight through me. Nights with a man who saw only me. He'd show up at my apartment with Chinese takeout and eat it straight from the box on my thrift store couch. He helped my sister with her business homework. He fixed my mama's car himself, designed a suit, and all. I fell in love with him in 1,000 little moments before I even realized I was falling. The night he proposed, his mother had followed him. She showed up at my door the next morning with a check and a threat. $5 million. She said, placing the check on my kitchen table like she was dealing cards. "Take it and disappear. Or stay. And I'll make sure your sister loses her scholarship, your mother loses her job, and you lose everything you care about. My son is going through a rebellious phase. Don't confuse it with love." I tore the check up in her face. Maybe that was my biggest mistake. Or maybe it was the moment I unknowingly declared war. We got married anyway. A small ceremony with just my family and a few of his friends. His family refused to come. But they did send a gift, a newspaper announcement celebrating his ex-girlfriend's return from Switzerland. That's when the games began. Moving into his world felt like being dropped on a foreign planet where I didn't speak the language and the air was too thin to breathe. The house was a museum called Perfect, and I was the one flawed thing inside it. His mother had keys. She'd show up when he was at work, rearranging things and leaving little notes about proper placement and aesthetic harmony. She hired an etiquette coach for me and announced at dinner that even dogs could learn manners with enough patience. Family dinners were torture. They served me last, on different china. "Oh, we thought you'd be more comfortable using the everyday dishes, dear." They spoke French whenever I entered, switching to English only to ask if I needed anything from the kitchen, like I was part of the staff. His sister told stories about his ex right in front of me, per his trips, mutual friends, how perfectly she fit in. I tried telling him, but how do you explain drowning to someone who has never swallowed water in their life? He grew up with her coldness. To him it was normal. He thought I needed more time to adjust. He didn't see how they waited until he looked away to twist the knife. Our anniversary party shattered what was left of my strength. It was supposed to be a celebration of our first year together. His mother turned it into a reunion, inviting his ex and introducing her as the one who got away, while I stood there in a dress I had saved months to afford. They seated her next to him at dinner. They played their song. His mother made a toast about second chances. Staring directly at the woman beside him, I noticed my wedding photos had been removed from the family wall, replaced with images from some charity gala where his ex had once been his date. When I confronted Adelaide, she said, "Oh, we're doing renovations. Some things just don't match the aesthetic anymore." Later that night, I heard him laughing with his friends in his study. One of them joked that at least he'd gotten the diversity hire out of his system. I waited for him to defend me. He didn't. He just kept laughing. That laugh fractured something inside me I didn't even know could break. The charity gala was the final humiliation. His mother claimed she'd handle my invitation. When we arrived, my name wasn't on the list. "Oh dear," she said loudly. "They must have thought you were staff. Well, you could always work the event if you want to stay." She had an actual uniform ready. My husband said nothing. I wore that uniform. I served drinks at my own husband's table while his ex sat in my seat, wearing the same designer dress he'd bought me. Only hers fit perfectly because his mother had given her my measurements. I overheard Adelaide telling someone that I was just the marriage his accountant recommended for tax benefits. The breaking point came when I found papers in his study, divorce documents already partly filled out. The date was from before our anniversary. There were printed text messages, too, between him and his ex planning meetings, calling me a mistake he needed to fix. I was done. Quietly, painfully done. The silence inside me felt like death. After that, I started recording everything, every cruel remark, every disguised insult, every attempt to erase me. I refused to leave empty-handed. I refused to walk away without letting them know I saw exactly who they were. My sister helped me find a lawyer. My cousin knew someone who handled family wars like this. I packed slowly, carefully, only taking what I'd brought into the marriage: my grandmother's ring, my daddy's Bible, photos of my family. I didn't want anything he'd given me. It all felt poisoned the day I planned to leave. There was an emergency board meeting at the house. The family arrived earlier than expected, swarming like vultures. I was upstairs, suitcase ready, when I heard them gathering in the study. I should have left, but then I heard my name. "Finally got rid of that ghetto trash," his mother said triumphantly. "The divorce papers worked perfectly. She's been packing for days." The ex-girlfriend act was brilliant, Adelaide chimed in. She really believed he was cheating. "Those fake messages looked so real," his brother added. "Technology's a blessing." My blood went cold, then hot, then cold again. "Enough." My husband's voice sliced through their celebration. "Are you satisfied? You destroyed my marriage. You broke the only real thing I ever had." "Don't be dramatic," his mother sniffed. "She was never good enough." "Good enough." He laughed, bitter and broken. "She was everything. The only person who ever loved me without wanting something from me. And you couldn't stand it, could you? Couldn't tolerate that. I chose someone who didn't care about money, the name, or the connections. She was a gold digger." She tore up a $5 million check he waved in her face. He shouted, "She works 12-hour shifts even when I beg her to quit. She sends half of everything to her family. She made me sign a prenup too, protect my assets, because she never wanted anyone questioning her motives. And you each one of you broke her, cut by cut, day by day. You shattered the strongest woman I've ever known." Silence. Then papers rustling. "What is this?" his mother asked, her voice suddenly trembling. "Evidence," he said. 3 years worth. Every racist comment, every cruel act, the money you've been stealing from the foundation, the bribes, the tax fraud, all of it. You wouldn't dare. I already did. The FBI has copies." She gasped. "And those divorce papers you forged," he continued, "they're fake. I had them made just to see how far you'd go." "The ex-girlfriend, she's a private investigator. And those texts you faked, we have the originals." My knees buckled, and I sank to the floor, shaking. "The house is in her name," he said. "Has been for 6 months. The company's shares transferred to a trust under her name. The foundation sees the sole director now. Every time you humiliated her, I moved another asset. Every insult cost you millions. And that prenup you marked, it doesn't protect me, protects her. From you. You can't. I'm done being your son. I'm done letting you torture the woman I love. Security is outside. 10 minutes. Leave you ever come near my wife again, I'll release everything. Not just to authorities, to the media." I stood. I opened the door. I walked downstairs, my head held high, my grandmother's ring catching the light. The room froze. "Hello, family," I said, my voice steady. "I believe you have something to return to me. My dignity. But since you spent 3 years trying to steal it, I'll just take everything else instead." His mother turned pale, her perfect composure cracking. Adela sobbed. Mascara streaming. His brother frantically called lawyers. My husband looked at me, and for the first time in months, I really saw him. The distance wasn't rejection. The exhaustion wasn't disinterest. He'd been fighting a war I didn't even know existed, protecting me the only way he knew how, letting them think they were winning while he dismantled them piece by piece. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have told you. I should have trusted me to fight with you," I said. "But we'll talk about that after they're gone." Security entered. His family was escorted out, his mother screaming about lawsuit, his sister crying about social ruin. Within an hour, they were gone. Within a week, the news exploded. Within a month, his mother was indicted. The empire built on cruelty collapsed. We sat in that empty house that night, really talking for the first time in years. He showed me everything, the recordings, the assets he safeguarded, the case he built. Those long days weren't him avoiding me. They were him protecting me. Every distance I felt was him trying to keep their venom from touching me more than it already had. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because you would have stayed and fought, he said, and they would have destroyed you. They've spent decades being cruel. You have too much goodness in you to fight like they fight. So you fought alone? I fought for us. The same way you fought every day, by standing tall, by not letting them break you, by showing up even when they tried to freeze you out. We rebuilt after that. Not the old marriage that one had been shattered beyond repair, but something new, something stronger. His family lost everything, the company, the reputation, the social standing they'd crushed souls to maintain, and me. I got something better than revenge. I got the truth. His mother tried to reconcile once. She showed up with tears and apologies. I looked her straight in the eye and said, I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't mean access. You taught me that when you locked me out of your family. Consider the lesson returned. We eventually moved away. Smaller house, warmer walls, no ghosts. My family visits whenever they want. My sister graduated debt-free, my mama retired early, and my husband, he smiles now, really smiles, like a man finally freed. On the most important lesson. Sometimes the conversation you're not supposed to hear is the one that saves your life. If I'd walked out that day with my suitcase, I would have spent the rest of my life believing I wasn't enough. Instead, I learned that sometimes love wages its battles in silence, that strength isn't always loud, and that the person you think is abandoning you might actually be burning the world down to protect you. They thought they were breaking me. They were forging steel. They thought they were defending their legacy. They destroyed it, and my husband, he thought fighting alone was protecting me. He learned that marriage means fighting side by side, even when the enemy is family, especially when the enemy is family. Sometimes you let them think they're winning while you're playing chess and they're playing checkers. Sometimes revenge isn't walking away, it's staying long enough to watch them realize they sabotaged themselves. And sometimes the love you think is dying is actually learning how to go to war. If this story touched you, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. Share it with someone who needs reminding that not all battles are visible, not all love is loud, and sometimes the person you're ready to give up on is ready to destroy entire worlds for you. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have stayed long enough to uncover the truth, or would you have walked away? Tell me in the comments. And remember, when someone shows you who they are, believe them, but also understand that sometimes people show you who they have to be to protect the ones they love. The difference between those two, that's where real love lives. And until next time, let this be your reminder. You are worthy. You are enough. And anyone who makes you doubt, that doesn't deserve a seat at your table.